If you've been told that fall prevention is mostly about strength training and balance exercises, that's true. But it's missing something that actually matters more on a day-to-day basis than anything you do in the gym. It's how you walk. Not whether you walk, how. And the people who rarely fall after 55, they're doing 8 specific things while they walk that most people have never been told about. Some of them are so small, so subtle, that you'd never notice them just watching someone on the street. But the research on this is clear. Now, I want to be upfront with you. The fall statistics are not good right now. More than 1 in 4 adults over 65 falls every year. That's 14 million people. And in 2024 alone, over 43,000 older adults died from a preventable fall, roughly 1 death every 12 minutes. The fall death rate has gone up 21% in just the last 6 years. So this isn't a small problem, and it's not a problem that's getting better on its own. But here's what the data also shows. Falls are not inevitable. The people who age into their 60s, 70s, 80s with their balance and independence intact, they're not just lucky, they walk differently, and that's learnable. So in this video, I'm going to break down exactly what they're doing, 8 habits, backed by real research, and by the end you'll have a clear picture of what to start doing differently, starting on your very next walk. Let's get into it. So let's talk about what actually changes in the body after 55, because this is where most explanations stop too early, and that gap is costing people. You already know that muscle mass decreases with age. You've heard that. But here's what that means specifically for walking. The muscles that control the ankle, the ones responsible for lifting your foot cleanly off the ground with each step, those are among the first to weaken. And when they weaken even slightly, your foot clearance drops. You're not dragging your feet, not yet, but you're clearing the ground by less, a lot less, and a curb, a slightly uneven sidewalk, the edge of a rug. Now that's a trip waiting to happen. At the same time, something is happening in the nervous system. The signals between your brain and your feet are slowing down. Not dramatically. This isn't a disease, it's just aging. But reaction time decreases. The automatic corrections your body used to make without thinking, catching a stumble, adjusting to a slippery surface, those take a fraction of a second longer than they used to. And in a fall, a fraction of a second is everything. So what does that actually mean? It means the margin for error gets smaller. Every year, a little smaller. And this is where it connects to walking technique. A younger person can walk with sloppy habits and get away with it. They've got the muscle response, the reaction time, the foot clearance to compensate. But after 55, those compensation systems are thinner. The habits that never mattered before, where you look, how widely your arms swing, whether you shuffle even slightly, now they matter a lot. This is where the research on fallers versus non-fallers gets interesting. When scientists track people over time and compare the ones who fall to the ones who don't, they're not just finding big differences, they're finding tiny ones, millimeters of difference in foot clearance, fractions of a second in reaction time, small, consistent shifts in how the body moves, things you'd never see with the naked eye, but you can feel them and you can change them. A fall at this stage of life, a serious one, can be the thing that changes everything. Nearly 320,000 older adults are hospitalized for hip fractures every year in the US. Almost all of those are caused by falls. And the 1-year mortality rate after a hip fracture is somewhere between 17 and 27%. That means roughly 1 in 5 people who break a hip is gone within 12 months. Not from the fall itself, but from what follows. The surgery, the immobility, the complications that come from a body that was doing fine until it wasn't. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, this is how it happens. Not all at once. It's a slow drift in walking mechanics, a gradual narrowing of that margin for error, and then one ordinary moment, stepping off a curb, walking to the bathroom at night, crossing a parking lot. That turns into something nobody recovers from the same way. I've seen it. Someone who was gardening every weekend, still driving themselves everywhere, still getting down on the floor with their grandkids, and then one fall. And they almost all say the same thing afterward. They didn't see it coming. It felt like it came out of nowhere. It didn't come out of nowhere. It built up quietly over years in the way they walked. So that's why we're here. Because catching this early, understanding what the people who don't fall are doing differently, that's the difference between watching from the sidelines and staying in the game. Let's talk about what they're actually doing. Secret number 1, where you look. This one surprises almost everyone, and it's probably the most important thing on this list. When people start feeling unsteady on their feet, whether they realize it or not, they instinctively look down, at the ground, at their feet. It feels like the safe thing to do, like you're being careful. But here's what the research actually shows. People who fall frequently look down. People who don't fall look ahead. Researchers have tracked the eye movements of older adults while they walk and compared fallers to non-fallers. And one of the clearest differences they found is this: high-risk individuals visually lock onto the ground 1 or 2 steps in front of them. Low-risk individuals scan further out, 5, 6, 8 feet ahead, while still being aware of what's immediately underfoot. So what does that mean for you? When you look further ahead, your brain gets more processing time. It sees the uneven pavement, the step down, the change in surface, earlier. Your body has more time to adjust before the problem arrives. When you're looking at your feet, by the time you see the hazard, you're already on top of it. Looking down also does something else. It drops your chin to your chest, which shifts your center of gravity slightly forward. And forward lean is one of the mechanical patterns most consistently associated with trips and falls. The fix is simple: eyes up, chin level. Scan ahead of you, not beneath you. On familiar terrain, your feet don't need your eyes anywhere near as much as your brain needs the information that comes from looking forward. Secret number 2, your arms. Most people, when they think about walking, think about their legs. Makes sense, but your arms are doing more work than you probably realize. That natural opposite motion, left arm forward as your right leg steps, right arm forward as your left leg steps, is actually one of your body's built-in stabilizing tools. It creates a gentle rotation through the trunk that keeps your weight balanced with every step. Remove it, and each step becomes slightly less controlled than it needs to be. Now, as we get older, arm swing naturally decreases. It gets smaller, tighter. Sometimes people consciously suppress it, tucking their arms in, holding them still, especially when they feel less steady. And that instinct makes sense, but it backfires. Less arm swing means less rotation through the trunk, which means less automatic balance correction with each step. You're essentially switching off a system your body has been running since childhood. The people who walk stably into their 70s and 80s, their arms are moving, not dramatically. You're not doing a power walk with exaggerated pumping, but the swing is there, relaxed, full, opposite the leg. One thing to check: are you carrying something in one hand? A bag, a phone, a coffee? That's enough to reduce arm swing on one side and create an uneven movement pattern, and uneven movement patterns show up repeatedly in fall research as a warning sign. Walk with both hands free when you can, and when you can't, be aware of it. Secret number 3, the phone. Okay, this one people know intellectually, but they underestimate by how much it matters. There was a meta-analysis, a review pulling together results from multiple studies, that found older adults who showed gait changes while performing a simultaneous task had 5.3 times higher odds of falling than those who didn't. 5.3 times? That's not a small increase. That's the difference between someone who falls and someone who doesn't, condensed into one number. And the task doesn't have to be texting. Anytime your brain is splitting its attention between walking and something else, your stride shortens. Then your step width gets inconsistent. Then your reaction time drops. Each one of those is a measurable fall risk factor on its own, and they tend to arrive together. Older adults feel this effect more than younger adults do. That's not an opinion. It's what the research consistently shows. The cognitive resources that walking requires are greater after 55 because the process is less automatic. It takes more of the brain to keep things stable. Now, this doesn't mean you can never talk to someone while you walk. Conversation is fine. It's a relatively low-demand task. What it means is, if you're going to text, read a message, or navigate on your phone, stop walking first. Completely. Find a stable spot, do the phone thing, then walk again. That one habit change alone removes a significant source of fall risk from your daily life. So, eyes ahead, arms swinging freely, phone in your pocket while your feet are moving, 3 things. Already different from what most people do. Secret number 4, your posture. Specifically, what's happening from the waist up. Remember what we said in part 2 about the center of gravity shifting forward? This is where that becomes something you can actually do something about. A forward lean, hunching slightly at the chest, letting the head drift out in front of the shoulders, is one of the most common patterns that develops gradually after 55. And most people have no idea they're doing it. It doesn't feel like hunching, it just feels like standing. Here's what's actually happening. When your head and chest are forward of your hips, your center of gravity is already displaced in the direction of a fall. You're constantly, subtly fighting forward momentum with every step. That's exhausting, and it means your margin for error, that thing we talked about getting thinner with age, is even smaller than it needs to be. The correction isn't military posture. You don't need to stand like you're in a recruitment poster. What you're looking for is this: ears over shoulders, shoulders over hips. Stack the weight. Let the spine be tall without being rigid. And posture and gaze are connected. This is the part that changes everything. When your chin drops, your chest follows. When your chest drops, your hips follow. It's a chain, which is actually good news because lifting your gaze, which we already covered in Secret 1, automatically pulls your posture upward with it. Fix one, you're partly fixing the other. Secret number 5, how fast you walk. Okay, this one I want to be careful about because the instinct when you feel less steady is to slow down, and that instinct makes total sense. Slow down, be careful, take your time, right? Actually, let me be more precise about that because it's not quite right. Walking too slowly, consistently, over time, is itself a fall risk factor, not because slow walking is dangerous in the moment, but because it reflects and reinforces a narrowing of the movement system. Short, cautious, shuffling steps reduce the dynamic forces that keep your balance system trained and responsive. It's a feedback loop. The less confidently you move, the less capable your body becomes of moving confidently. There was a study out of Japan. 90 older adults, ages 65 to 79, followed over 16 months, where researchers split participants into 2 groups. One group did dedicated balance and strength training, the other group just walked, brisk walking. And at the end of the study, the walkers had a 53% lower fall risk per step compared to the balance training group. 53% just from walking with some intention behind it. Now, brisk doesn't mean reckless. It means purposeful. It means not shuffling. It means picking your feet up, extending your stride modestly, moving with a bit of energy behind each step. Your heel should contact the ground first. That heel strike is part of healthy movement, and losing it is one of the early signs that things are drifting in the wrong direction. So if you've been walking slowly because it feels safer, I understand that. But the research says that building back some pace, carefully and gradually, is protective, not risky. Secret number 6, your step width, and why almost nobody talks about this one. Pay attention here. Step width is the side-to-side distance between your feet as you walk. And the variability of that width, how much it changes from step to step, turns out to be one of the strongest predictors of fall risk that researchers have found. Think about what side-to-side stability means while you're walking. Every single step, you're briefly on one foot, and your body has to control that sideways sway well enough to place the next foot accurately. If that control is inconsistent, if your step width is bouncing around, it means the system managing side-to-side balance isn't reliable. Researchers at the University of Nebraska looked specifically at step width variability in older adults living independently in the community. And what they found was that it was one of the most sensitive indicators for distinguishing people at risk of falling from those who weren't. More sensitive than some of the standard clinical balance assessments. So what does this actually look like in daily life? It can look like weaving slightly while you walk, feeling less stable on uneven ground, having a harder time on stairs, needing a wider stance to feel secure, standing still. And what corrects it? Walking itself? Specifically, walking with awareness. Just bringing conscious attention to keeping your steps even and same width, same rhythm, feet tracking roughly parallel, is the beginning of training that system back. I had someone tell me once, they said they'd assumed the unsteadiness they felt was just part of getting older, that everyone their age felt that way. And the thing is, so many people believe that. They normalize it, they stop expecting to feel stable, but that unsteadiness isn't just a feeling. It shows up in the data, and it responds to the right kind of attention. 10 years from now, this is the variable. Not whether you did everything perfectly, whether you paid attention early enough. The person who catches these patterns in their late 50s or early 60s and makes small corrections, they're still traveling. Still dancing at a grandkid's wedding without holding on to someone's arm. Still walking into a restaurant or a grocery store or a friend's house without quietly calculating the steps and the surfaces first. The person who wrote it off as aging, who just got slower and more careful and hoped for the best. That's who ends up watching from the sideline. It doesn't have to go that way. So with that in mind, let's get to the last 2 secrets. Secret number 7, deliberately lifting your feet. This one connects back to something from the very beginning of this video. The ankle muscles, the ones that weaken quietly and early, and what that does to foot clearance with every step. Most falls in older adults are trips, not slips. The foot catches something, a slightly raised edge of pavement, the lip of a doorway, the corner of a rug, and the body goes forward before it can recover. And in almost every one of those cases, the foot clearance was already marginal. The foot was clearing the ground by less than it should have been, and the obstacle didn't need to be large to become a problem. The fix sounds almost too simple, but it works. Actively think about lifting your feet with each step. Not dramatically, not high-stepping like you're marching, but with clear intention. Heel strikes the ground first. Toes come up during the swing. The foot moves through space with purpose rather than sliding through it. Now here's why this needs to be conscious rather than automatic, at least for a while. Remember what we said about the process of walking, drawing more from the brain after 55 than it used to? That same quality that makes dual tasking risky is also what makes deliberate attention to foot mechanics genuinely useful. You can actually retrain the pattern by thinking about it. Over time, it becomes habitual again. But you have to give it conscious attention first. One practical thing to check: your footwear. Thick, soft soles, the kind that feel cushioned and comfortable, can actually reduce the sensory feedback your feet get from the ground. That feedback matters for balance. A shoe with a thinner, firmer sole gives your nervous system more information about what you're standing on. It's a small thing, but small things are exactly what this list is made of. Secret number 8, slowing down at transitions. And the last one, this is probably the most immediately actionable thing on this list because it applies to specific moments you can identify right now. Most falls don't happen in the middle of a long, flat stretch of walking. They happen at transitions. Stepping off a curb, moving from carpet to tile, starting down a flight of stairs, getting up from a chair and taking those first few steps. Stepping out of the shower, crossing a threshold from inside to outside. These are the moments where the terrain changes, where your balance system has to recalibrate quickly, and where most of what we've covered today has to work together at the same time. And what do most people do at transitions? They keep moving at the same pace they were going before, which is exactly the problem. The people who rarely fall treat transitions differently. They pause for a beat, they let their eyes adjust to the change. They make sure their weight is stable before they commit to the first step. It's not hesitation, it's intention. It takes maybe 1 extra second, and that 1 second is doing a lot of work. Think about how this connects to everything else we've covered. At a curb, your gaze needs to be forward and then briefly down to register the drop. Not scanning your phone. Your arms need to be free to adjust. Your foot clearance needs to be deliberate. Your posture needs to be upright, so your weight is over your feet. Every single secret on this list converges at the moment of transition. So slow down at those moments. Deliberately, every time. That's it. That's 8. None of them require a gym. None require equipment. They require attention and the decision to start paying it. You can start on your very next walk. Pick one thing. Focus on it for a week until it stops feeling like a thought and starts feeling like a habit. Then add another. Think about where you want to be 5 years from now. Still hiking on a Saturday morning. Still getting behind the wheel yourself. Still on the floor with your grandkids. That version of you exists, and the path to it runs straight through the habits you build today. If this video helped you, subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And if there's someone in your life who needs to hear this, a parent, a spouse, a friend who's been less steady lately, share it with them. It might be one of the more useful things you do for them this year. Take care of yourself. I'll see you in the next one.